We are live streaming at this time. The court will call the case of People versus Catherine Alish, 22-161 FD. And this is the time, date, and place set for taking of a plea in this matter. And if the attorneys would give their full appearances for the record.
Good afternoon, Aaron Matriana for the people.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. No hearing on behalf of Ms. Alish, who's present today via Zoom and consents to today's proceedings being done via Zoom.
And Ms. Alish, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And the court is proceeding remotely as I'm permitted to do by administrative order from my Michigan Supreme Court. I am live streaming as is required. Also, my court reporter is in the courtroom and she's making a verbatim record of this proceeding. No one is allowed to make an unauthorized reproduction or recording of this matter. If they do, they may be held in contempt of court. It's my understanding that a plea offer was extended to Ms. Alish, and Mr. Majorana, you may place that plea offer on the record at this time.
Yes, Your Honor. The plea offer in this matter would be to plea as charged. There would be a recommendation of a delayed sentence with acceptance into sobriety court upon completion of the sobriety court program. The charges would be reduced to 1 count of operating while intoxicated, second offense.
Your Honor, that's an accurate statement, but I would just also like to reflect on the record that then count 2 would also be dismissed upon completion.
That's correct, Judge.
So both counts 1 and counts 1, count 1 being operating while intoxicated, third offense, and count 2, failure to report an accident to fixtures would be dismissed at the time of successful completion of the delay of sentence, and which would also require her successful completion of treatment court program. Is that correct?
Yes, Judge.
Yes, Judge.
Very well. And Ms. Alish, is that an accurate representation or recitation of the plea offer as you understand it?
Yes, Your Honor.
And please raise your right hand and be sworn in. You do solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause now pending is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God. Say, I do.
I do.
And you may put your hand down and state your full name for the record.
Catherine Helena Alish.
And Ms. Alish, again, my understanding of this plea offer is that you will be pleading guilty as charged, with the understanding that upon successful completion of the 1 year or the delay of sentence, that the charge will be reduced to operating while intoxicated, second offense, which is a 1-year misdemeanor. Also, as part of your delay of sentence, you must successfully complete the problem solving court program. Is that your understanding of the plea offer in its entirety?
Yes, Your Honor.
Counts 1 and 2 would be dismissed upon successful completion of the delay of sentence. Ms. Alish, are you currently on probation or parole for anything?
No, Your Honor.
Either, and also, Ms. Alish, I must make you aware of the maximum penalty of operating while intoxicated, third offense. That is a felony carrying a maximum penalty of up to $5,000 and either 1 to 5 years or probation with 30 days to 1 year in jail and at least 48 hours to be served consecutively, and 60 to 180 days community service, rehabilitative programs, cost of prosecution, reimbursement to the government for emergency response, and expenses for prosecuting the defendant. Also mandatory vehicle immobilization of not less than 1 year or more than 3 years. Do you understand the maximum penalty for operating while intoxicated, third offense?
Yes, Your Honor.
And as it relates to count 2, failure to report an accident to fixtures, you understand that's a misdemeanor carrying a maximum penalty of up to 90 days in jail and or a $100 fine. Do you understand the maximum penalty?
Yes, Your Honor.
Either counsel aware of any special sentencing considerations that would enhance the indicated maximum sentence? Mr. Majorana
No, Your Honor.
and Ms. Scheck.
No, Your Honor.
And Ms. Alish, with all these things in mind, starting with count 1, operating while intoxicated, third offense, how do you wish to plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
And as it relates to count 2, failure to report accident to fixtures, how do you wish to plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
And do you understand that if I accept your plea of guilty, you will not have a trial of any kind, and you will be giving up the rights you would otherwise have at a trial? Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Also, I must make you aware of the following rights. You have the right to be tried by a jury, you have the right to be presumed innocent until proved guilty. You also have the right to have the prosecutor prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you are guilty. You have the right to have witnesses appear against you at the trial and to question the witnesses against you, and to have the court order any witnesses you have for your defense to appear at the trial. You also have the right to remain silent during the trial and to not have that silence used against you, and to testify at the trial if you choose to do so. Do you understand all of those rights?
Yes, Your Honor.
And are you waiving those rights at this time?
No, Your Honor. Oh, yes, I am.
That's-
Yes,
So you're waiving, so in order to enter this guilty plea, you are waiving your trial rights in order to effectively do so, correct?
yes, Your Honor.
Very well. So the court record will reflect that Ms. Alish understands her trial rights and has knowingly and voluntarily waived those rights to enter this plea. Do you understand that if I accept your plea, you're giving up any claim that this plea was a result of promises or threats that are not disclosed to the court at this proceeding?
Yes, Your Honor.
Understand that if I accept your plea, you're also giving up any claim that it's not your own choice to plead guilty.
Yes, Your Honor.
I must also make you aware that if I accept your plea, you may be giving up rights that would otherwise be available to you if you're convicted at a trial. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Also, want to advise you that if your plea is accepted, any appeal from a conviction and sentence pursuant to this plea will be by application for leave to appeal and not by right. That is, there would be no automatic right to appeal, but rather you would have to ask permission to have your case reviewed by an appellate court, and there's no guarantee or assurance the appellate court would do so. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Has anyone promised you anything beyond what's been stated in court on the record this afternoon to induce you to plead guilty?
No, Your Honor.
Has anyone threatened you in any manner to get you to plead guilty?
No, Your Honor.
Is it your own choice to plead guilty, Ms. Alish?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you are pleading guilty because you are guilty of committing these offenses. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Scheck, you may question your client concerning what transpired back on or about November 28th of 2021 in the county of Saginaw, state of Michigan, specifically Saginaw Township, as it relates to counts 1 and 2.
Ms. Alish, were you operating a 2006 Pontiac Torrent upon State Street at or near Heveter on November 28th of 2021?
Yes,
And before operating that vehicle, you had ingested some alcohol, is that true?
yes,
And by ingesting that alcohol, you were operating the 2006 Pontiac Torrent while under the influence, is that true?
yes,
And you had contact with the police, is that true?
yes,
That eventually led to you having your blood drawn, is that true?
yes,
Do you have any reason to dispute that your blood results were 0.323?
no,
And Ms. Alish, you were previously convicted of operating impaired on January 30th of 2008. Is that in the 70th District Court? Is that true?
yes,
And you were also convicted of operating while intoxicated on May 24th of 2021 in the 70th District Court. Is that true?
yes,
Your Honor, I have no further questions as to count 1.
As it relates to count 1, any additional questions, Mr. Majorana?
No, Your Honor.
You may continue, Ms. Scheck.
Ms. Alish, also on November 28th of 2021, while you were operating that 2006 Pontiac Torrent, you hit a traffic sign. Is that true?
yes,
And you failed to report that accident to the nearest or most convenient police officer. Is that true?
yes,
Okay, I have no further questions as to count 2, Your Honor.
As to count 2, Mr. Majorana, any additional questions?
No, Your Honor.
Either counsel aware of any promises, threats, or inducements other than those already placed on the record?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
And do counsel believe the court has complied with all applicable court rules, including MCR 6.302 for the taking of this plea?
People are satisfied.
Defense is satisfied, Your Honor.
I find the plea to be understandingly made, voluntary, and accurate. I accept the plea. I'm going to refer this matter to the Michigan Department of Corrections for a pre-sentence investigation. Also, the court is going to order DNA profiling to be done in accordance with state law. Your attorney will explain that to you in further detail if it hasn't already been accomplished. Also, the court is going to provide you, Ms. Alish, with a packet from the Michigan Department of Corrections, that packet. And we want to do that before you leave here today. If you would just come up to grab that packet. That packet must be completed and delivered to the Michigan Department of Corrections on Bagley Street within 24 hours of today's date. Sentencing in this matter, and we can do it on a Thursday. For the court, sobriety court.
Okay, how far you wanna go?
Let's go 45. We can go 45 days out.
Okay. 8.
2:30. So sentencing will take place on December 8th at 2:30 in the afternoon. December 8th at 2:30. Anything further for the record, Ms. Scheck?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Mr. Majorana?
No, Your Honor.
Very well. That will conclude this matter and bond will continue. And Ms. Alish, if you would come up to grab that packet, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Can come right, it can come right into the courtroom.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Or call the case of People versus Randy Minor Jr. Case number 22-1770 FD. And this is the time, date, and place set for taking of a plea in this matter. And if the attorneys would give their full appearances for the record.
Aaron Majorana for the people, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Millicent Check appearing on behalf of the defendant, Mr. Minor, who is present today via Zoom and consents to today's proceedings being done via Zoom.
Is that correct, Mr. Minor?
Yes, sir.
As previously stated, the court is proceeding remotely. I'm doing it for the record in this particular case. The court is proceeding remotely pursuant to administrative order from our Michigan Supreme Court permitting us to do so. The court is live streaming. I'm also taking a verbatim record of this proceeding. No one is allowed to make a record of this proceeding. If they do, they may be held in contempt of court. It's my understanding a plea offer was made. Mr. Majorana, you may place it on the record.
Yes, Your Honor. The offer in this matter will be for Mr. Minor to plead as charged to operating while intoxicated, third offense. There would be a recommendation of a delay with acceptance in the sobriety court program. Upon completion of the program, that charge would be reduced to operating while intoxicated, second offense.
Your Honor,
Yes,
I've had an opportunity to review that offer with my client, Mr. Minor. He'd like to tender a guilty plea to that. That is our understanding.
And is that correct, Mr. Minor?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Minor, if you please raise your right hand and be sworn in. You do solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause now pending is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Say, I do.
I do.
You may put your hand down and state your full name for the record.
Randy James Minor Jr.
And Mr. Minor, my understanding of this plea offer is that you're going to be pleading guilty as charged to this offense in the information of operating while intoxicated. Third offense, that's the only count in the information. And my understanding is that upon successful completion of a 1 year or a delay of sentence and your successful completion of the sobriety treatment court program, that charge would be reduced to operating while intoxicated, second offense, which is a 1 year misdemeanor. Is that your understanding of the plea offer in its entirety?
Yes, Your Honor.
And count one would be dismissed at the time of sentencing. Mr. Minor, are you currently on probation or parole for anything?
No, Your Honor.
Either council aware of any special sentencing considerations that would enhance the indicated maximum sentence, Mr. Majorana?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Scheck?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Minor, just so you're aware of the penalties for operating while intoxicated, third offense, that is a felony carrying a maximum penalty of up to $5,000, either 1 to 5 years or probation with 30 days to 1 year in jail, at least 48 hours to be served consecutively, and 60 to 180 days of community service, rehabilitative programs, cost of prosecution, reimbursement to the government for emergency response, and expenses for prosecuting defendant, mandatory vehicle immobilization, if not less than 1 year or more than 3 years. Do you understand the maximum penalties?
Yes, Your Honor.
And with all these things in mind, how do you wish to plead to this offense? In count one, operating while intoxicated, third offense, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty, Your Honor.
And do you understand that if I accept your plea of guilty, you will not have a trial of any kind, and you will be giving up the rights you would otherwise have at a trial? Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Also, Mr. Minor, I want to make sure that you understand the rights that you would be waiving to enter this guilty plea. You understand you have the right to be tried by a jury, to be presumed innocent until proved guilty, to have the prosecutor prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you are guilty, to have the witnesses against you appear at the trial and to question the witnesses against you, and to have the court order any witnesses you have for your defense to appear at the trial. You have the right to remain silent, not have that silence used against you. And if you choose to do so, you may testify at the trial. Do you understand all of those rights?
Yes, Your Honor.
And are you waiving those rights at this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
And so the record will reflect that Mr. Minor understands all of his trial rights and is waiving those and knowingly, voluntarily waiving those trial rights to enter this plea. Do you understand that if I accept your plea, you're also giving up any claim that is that this plea was a result of promises or threats that are not disclosed to the court at this proceeding? Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you understand that if I accept your plea, you're also giving up any claim that it's not your own choice to plead guilty this afternoon. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Must also make you aware that if I accept your plea, you may be giving up rights that would otherwise be available to you if you're convicted at a trial. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Also, I want to advise you that if your plea is accepted, any appeal from a conviction and sentence pursuant to this plea will be by application for leave to appeal and not by right. That is, there will be no automatic right to appeal, but rather you would have to ask permission to have your case reviewed by an appellate court, and there's no guarantee or assurance the appellate court would do so. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Has anyone promised you anything beyond what's been stated in court on the record this afternoon to induce you to plead guilty?
No.
Has anyone threatened you in any manner to get you to plead guilty?
No, Your Honor.
And it's your own choice to plead guilty, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And are you pleading guilty because you are in fact guilty of committing this offense?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Scheck, you may question your client concerning what happened back on or about March 12th of this year in the township of Bridgeport, County of Saginaw, state of Michigan, described in the information as Dixie Highway and Stanton Drive as it relates to count one, operating while intoxicated, third offense.
Mr. Minor, I guess, on March 12th of 2022, were you operating a motor vehicle upon Dixie Highway at or near Stanton?
Yes.
Okay, and prior to operating that vehicle, had you ingested some alcohol?
Yes.
And because you ingested that alcohol, were you operating the motor vehicle while you were intoxicated?
Yes.
And you had contact with a police officer that evening, is that true?
Yes.
Which eventually led to you having your blood drawn, is that true?
Yes.
Do you have any reason to dispute that your blood results were 0.244?
No.
And Mr. Minor, you were previously convicted of operating while intoxicated on or about April 15th, 2009 in the 70th District Court for the County of Saginaw, is that true?
Yes.
And it's also true that you were convicted of operating while intoxicated on or about June 29th of 2009 in the 71st B District Court for the County of Tuscola, correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have no further questions of my client.
No other
Mr.
question. Your Honor.
Major,
No question, Your Honor.
Ms. Scheck, is this the case if you, Ms. Scheck or Mr. Majorana, Did we do the waiver of a preliminary examination on Mr. Minor? Because I'm looking at the register of actions and I'm not seeing that anything was placed in the system that he actually, that the preliminary examination was run and he was bound over, or that he waived his preliminary examination.
I would have to ask Mr. Minor, Your Honor, did you,
It was waived, I believe.
Your Honor, I'm not seeing it in my system, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen either. Can look on.
I do recall, Ms. Scheck, we were in court. I'm not sure if this was the case or another case. I can't imagine we'd have many cases like this where
when you were
he
talking
had
about,
not yet waived.
he had not, the issue that we had previously was there was no bond set.
Yeah, and I remember that one, but there was another
Okay.
issue where someone had not yet waived up to circuit court. And I remember doing a waiver on the record because I said, as a circuit court judge, I haven't done a waiver in such a long time. Last time I did a waiver, I was in district court. And I recall having to do a waiver because of concurrent jurisdiction. And I remember you being present. I want to say Mr. McColgan was present at the time. But it's concerning that I do not see in the register of actions that he actually waived, or there has not been a bind over of his district court case. Which means we can't take a plea until that is accomplished because it's not yet within my jurisdiction. So let me just check one thing.
I don't think it was.
And then I specifically recall that we had to get a case number. We had to get an FH case number as well. When did he come into the program? So I'm showing he signed his paperwork. That was back in September. So it would have been perhaps mid to late September. I'm also looking. So I'm looking at the order of internal reassignment.
That's what I just saw.
And it was assigned from Judge Frank as 70th District Court judge to me as a 70th District Court judge, because this is a 70th District Court program. But the other thing that stands out to, so that's one sign that he was never officially bound over, because Judge Frank, as a district court judge, not as a circuit court judge with concurrent jurisdiction, had the case at the time it was reassigned to me. Furthermore, I'm looking at the bind over paperwork in my file and it's completely blank. So that means that Judge Frank, so there was never a bind over of the case. Let's double check and make sure of that. And this FD number, that's not a circuit court number. FD is not a circuit court code. That is a district court code. It's my understanding. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
It's a district court code, right?
That's district court, not driving for, yes. But still in district court.
And that's the only number that we have. But what I don't want to have happen is I don't want to do another bind over if I've already done the bind over previously and it just never got put into the register of actions and the paperwork was never put into my file. So what we're going to do today is that might have been a tremendous waste of time for Mr. Minor and everybody else. Mr. Minor, what we're going to do today is we're going to postpone this matter. I'm going to adjourn it until we can figure out what's going on with your district court case, because it may not have been bound over to the circuit court for jurisdictional purposes. Okay. All right. Court is adjourning this matter at this time. That will give us some time to look into this matter. Have a good day, Mr. Minor. We'll be in touch. Sorry that we wasted your time for the past
Thank you, Your
30
Honor.
minutes to an hour. You're welcome. Court called the case of People versus Gregory Edwards, case number 22-1332 SD. And this is the time, date, place set for the taking of a plea in this matter. I know I have this matter, and I know we can proceed on this matter because this is a district court case, not a district court case that turned into a circuit court case. Attorney appearances for the record.
Aaron Matron for the PPR.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Melissa Scheck appearing on behalf of Mr. Gregory Edwards, who's present today via Zoom and consents to today's proceedings being done via Zoom.
Is that correct, Mr. Edwards?
Yes, Your Honor.
And the court is proceeding today pursuant to concurrent jurisdiction as a district court judge. So I'm acting as a district court judge in this matter for purpose of taking this plea. So that is the jurisdiction of this court at this time. It's my understanding that a plea offer was extended. The court is proceeding remotely pursuant to administrative order. I am live streaming to my YouTube station as required, and my court reporters in the courtroom making a verbatim record of this proceeding. No one is allowed to make an unauthorized reproduction or recording of this matter. If they do, they may be held in contempt of court. Mr. Majorana, if you would place the plea offer on the record at this time.
Yes, Your Honor. The plea officer in this matter is to plea is charged operating with a high BAC. There is a recommendation for a delay of sentence and entry into the sobriety court program. Upon completion of the program, the charge would be reduced to impaired driving.
Ms. Scheck?
Your Honor, that is an accurate statement, and my client would like to change his not guilty to a guilty with the understanding that it would be dropped to an impaired driving.
Is that correct, Mr. Edwards?
Yes, Your Honor.
And if you would please raise your right hand and be sworn in. You do solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause now pending is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Say, I do.
I do.
And you may put your hand down and state your full name for the record.
Gregory Scott Edwards.
And Mr. Edwards, my understanding of what's going to happen here today is that you're going to plead guilty as charged on the record today to this offense in count 1, operating with a high BAC. That is a misdemeanor, carrying a maximum penalty of up to 180 days in jail and or a $200 to $700 fine and or 360 hours of community service, rehabilitative programs, vehicle immobilization is mandatory with a prior conviction, cost of prosecution, reimbursement to the government for emergency response, and expenses for prosecuting defendant. Do you understand the maximum penalties?
Yes, Your Honor.
Also, sir, are you currently on probation or parole for anything?
No, Your Honor.
It's my understanding that upon successful completion of the treatment court program that you're in, that this charge will be reduced to impaired driving, which is a 93-day misdemeanor. Is that your understanding of the plea agreement in its entirety?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very well. And either counsel aware of any special sentencing considerations that would enhance the indicated maximum sentence, Mr. Majorana
No, Your Honor.
and Ms. Scheck?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Edwards, with all these things in mind, how do you wish to plead to this offense in count 1, operating with a high BAC, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
And do you understand that if I accept your plea of guilty, you will not have a trial of any kind, and you will be giving up the rights you would otherwise have at a trial? Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Also, sir, you have the following trial rights. You have the right to be tried by a jury, to be presumed innocent until proved guilty, and to have the prosecutor prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you are guilty. You have the right to have witnesses against you appear at the trial, to question those witnesses against you, and to have the court order any witnesses that you wish to have testify in your defense to appear at the trial. You have the right to remain silent, not have the silence used against you in any fashion. And if you choose to do so, you may testify at trial. That is your right. Do you understand those rights, Mr. Edwards?
Yes, Your Honor.
And it's my understanding that you're waiving those rights at this time.
Yes, Your Honor.
And the court the court record will reflect that Mr. Edwards understands his rights and has knowingly and intelligently and voluntarily waived those rights. Do you understand, Mr. Edwards, that if I accept your plea, you're giving up any claim that this plea was a result of promises or threats that are not disclosed to the court at this proceeding?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you understand that if I accept your plea, you're also giving up any claim that it's not your own choice to plead guilty? Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
I also want to advise you that if your plea is accepted and the appeal from conviction and sentence pursuant to this plea will be by application for leave to appeal and not by right. That is, there be no automatic right to appeal, but rather you will have to ask permission to have your case reviewed by a higher court. And there's no guarantee or assurance the higher court would do so. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Has anyone promised you anything beyond what's been stated in court on the record this afternoon to induce you to plead guilty?
No, Your Honor.
Has anyone threatened you in any manner to get you to plead guilty this afternoon, Mr. Edwards?
No, Your Honor.
Is it your own choice to plead guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you are pleading guilty because you are in fact guilty of committing this offense. Is that correct, Mr. Edwards?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Scheck, you may question your client concerning what transpired back on or about February 10th of this year in Kochville Township, County of Saginaw, State of Michigan, described in the information as Tittabawassee Road as it relates to count 1 operating with a high BAC.
Mr. Edwards, were you operating a white Dodge truck on that date, February 10th of 2022?
Yes.
Prior to operating that truck, you had ingested some alcohol, is that true?
Yes.
And while you were traveling on Tittabawassee, you were involved in an auto accident, is that true?
Yes.
And by ingesting that alcohol, were you operating your vehicle while intoxicated?
Yes.
And because of the auto accident, you had some blood drawn, is that true?
Yes.
And the blood results, you don't have any reason to dispute them, were 0.220, is that true?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Mr. Majorano,
No question, Your Honor.
either counsel aware of any promises, threats, or inducements other than those already placed on the record?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Do counsel believe that the court has complied with all applicable court rules?
People are satisfied.
Defense is satisfied, Your Honor.
Find the plea to be understandingly made, voluntary, and accurate. I accept the plea. I'm going to refer this matter to the department, or rather the district court probation department for a pre-sentence investigation. The court is going to order DNA profiling to be done in accordance with state law. Your attorney will explain that to you in further detail. Ms. Diggs, is there any specific information that you're going to need from him in order to accomplish preparing the pre-sentence investigation report?
Yes, Judge, we would like Mr. Edwards to come into the department within the next 48 hours to complete his packet.
You understand that, Mr. Edwards?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very well. So sentencing in this matter will take place on, what did we say, December 8th at 2:30. So December 8th at 2:30 is when we will sentence Mr. Edwards. Bond in this matter will continue. Anything further for the record, Mr. Majorana
No, Your Honor.
and Ms. Scheck?
No, Your Honor.
Very well. That will conclude this matter. Everyone have a good day.
Thank
You too, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.